Hello, my name is Kyle Cornelius with Cost Allocation Pro. We recently had some enhancements to Cost Allocation Pro, and I want to quickly go over those with you to show you the changes to the configuration page. So to get to the configurations settings, you're going to go to this gear icon in the top right of Cost Allocation Pro and navigate to the configurations page. You'll notice that there are now 4 tabs on this page. We've got default mapping, allocation settings, time settings, and custom mapping. So default mapping is where you're going to map your QuickBooks classes and accounts for your allocation journal entries. One of the changes, one of the updates that we've recently made is we are now able to have separate mappings for your general ledger account debits and credits on your journal entry. So if you're using a payroll clearing account, which would typically be set up as a liability account on your chart of accounts, if that is where you are first assigning your payroll transactions, and then now you are wanting to pull them out of the payroll clearing account, that is now allowed in Cost Allocation Pro. And you could do that for all of your salaries and fringe if needed. The next tab we have is the allocation settings tab. On this tab, you can define your indirect cost rate. If you're using an indirect rate that is applied to direct salaries, you can key in that indirect rate here. You can define the number of decimal places that you want to display on your cost allocation reports. On the time settings tab, we now have the ability to make the class fields required or not. So previously, you had to have a customer and class assigned to time activity. Now you can define whether or not you would like that class field to be required or have the ability to leave it blank. Same thing with the customer field. In this case, I'm going to keep those required. Finally, on the custom mapping tab, this is a very cool new feature that we have to where you can create custom mapping rules. So if you have employees that need to be expensed to a different set of accounts than your default mapping, this is where you can create those rules. So for instance, if you create a rule for officer slash director, so you want anything for the officer and directors, you want those to be coded differently than the other employees. So let's say in this case, Hugo first is our officer. We're going to say any customer in any class that Hugo charges time to, we want it to debit officer salaries instead of the default salary account. So we're going to click save here. And now let's go see a journal entry and let's take a look at how this rule affected the journal entry. So here's our cost allocation report. I'm going to click preview journal and we can see our journal entry. All of these employees are following the default mapping. Let's scroll down to Hugo and you can now see there's been a rule applied for Hugo and we can see that his expense is being debited to the defined GL account for the officer slash director rule. And you'll also notice that all of the credits are coming out of the payroll clearing account like we defined on our default mapping.